Hello, friends. If you are a traditional investor, meaning you have been investing for last 20, 30 years in the market, then you may have seen a fundamental shift in the way investing is working right now. For example, traditional signals that we watch for when we expect market to go down, such as inverted yield curve, high interest rates, currency devaluations, war, geopolitical instability, oil prices going through the roof, government deficit just keep growing, inflation. You would think that all of these problems should put a downward pressure on the market, and we should have probably seen 20-25% crash in S&P 500. But that hasn't happened. Market remained resilient. And one of the core reasons why that is happening is because of innovation happening in the world of AI. And as an investor, we need to understand the world that is changing among us. Because if we kind of fall behind and wait for things to turn around again, that might be too late. For example, I know some people who got out of stock market when we were in pandemic. So these people thought that, hey, this is the end of investing, things going to go really bad. And in just a matter of 3-4 months, market turned around. These people thought this was dead cat bounce. They did not get back into the market, and market just took off from there. And now market has almost doubled since then. And these people were never able to get into market. I saw the similar thing happen during the tariff time as well. A lot of people got out of the market because they were really worried about tariff, and then market keep going up, and then they didn't get back into the market again, thinking it's a dead cat bounce. So, all these technical terms aside, more important is we need to understand what is fundamentally changing in the market so we can adjust ourselves and take advantage of the opportunities. Now, this is a big topic. I can spend the entire day at the Wealth Summit talking about this, but not possible, right? So I have to divide it into small chunks. So I'm going to go through this course right now in my coaching program, teach people about, what is happening fundamentally in the economy, which is driving these factors and the risk that comes along with it, and how we can take advantage of the AI. So I'm going through that right now. But I'm going to make this course available to anybody who is coming to Wealth Summit for absolutely free. So if you register for the Wealth Summit and you're coming on October 25th, and those of you guys who don't know what Wealth Summit is, it's a full day program from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. where we talk about taxes, finance, investment, asset protection, all that kind of good stuff. So that is on October 25th. So if you're coming to Wealth Summit, you're going to get access to this program for absolutely free. Those of you who are already in the coaching program, you already have access to it, so you're good. And if you are not coming to the Wealth Summit, or you are not part of my coaching program, then maybe you can come meet with me in person at one of these meetups, and then I'll give you the access to the course as well. So it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for you to learn about fundamentals of investing in the world of AI. Meaning, try to understand how AI is challenging the fundamentals of investing, and how fundamental of investing can still challenge AI. So it's going to be a great battle between those two forces that we need to watch and how they're going to play out. So if you're confused, don't blame yourself, because the world around us is changing. So I'm really looking forward to meet with you in person, either at meetups at the end of this month or next month, or at the Wealth Summit. And then again, you can always reach out to me via taxcodeadvisors.com. If you want to learn more about me, you want to join the coaching program, or if you need some consulting, advising, then you can certainly reach out to me from there. So what is happening in the world of AI? Well, in the world of AI, we are seeing a lot of capital expanding. We are seeing earnings growth like crazy, although earnings growth are kind of interesting as well, but we'll talk about it at some other topic, maybe in a video format, or perhaps that should become a part of our fundamental class, because it's interesting. The earnings that you see right now, trailing earnings at least, are not a representation of real earnings. So again, that's a fundamentals. We need to understand how that works. Productivity. That's another big push. Everywhere I go, people talk about, hey, how AI is going to improve productivity. So how much it's going to improve, we don't know yet, but there is certainly a lot of expectations around that. A lot of business models are starting to emerge in market. For example, Jensen Huang talked about how AI can become an investable asset. So what he means by that is, for example, we invest in real estate, we invest in REITs, we invest in stocks. Similarly, we can invest in GPUs, memory. Why? Because he thinks that, those resources can now produce a great return. So that's an interesting concept. Financial industry is changing. A lot of new business models are emerging in the world of finance as well. So the real question we have to ask ourselves going forward is AI creating real economic value? How much of the growth is already reflected in the current stock prices? Are traditional market signal becoming less useful, or they're simply taking a break and everything going to go back, meaning we're going to ultimately see a big crash in the market? Is AI creating a durable economic transformation, or something else is going on in economy? Which companies will benefit and who will get disrupted? All of these questions will be answered in this course. Now, question we have to ask ourselves is, at the very basic level, if AI is successful, what can we expect from it? I mean, I think we can spend a day or two talking about all the positives. We can expect how it's going to make knowledge a commodity, how it's going to make everybody an expert. We can talk about all of that. But maybe we get there one day. That is some distant future. But let's talk about what are we seeing in the market today. So I saw a recent article by a professor from UC Berkeley. Now, he teaches calculus at UC Berkeley. And he said, look, back in the days, a few years ago, we used to get, 13, 1400 students sitting in the class, and about 98, 99% of the students will grasp the concept of calculus and they will move on. But over the last couple of years, I have seen that change dramatically. A lot of kids in my classes barely even understand geometry or a middle school algebra. And I have to spend a lot of time teaching these kids fractions. So we have to ask what actually has happened in the last couple of years. Now, he blames it that it's a poor selection of students coming to UC Berkeley. So he said, look, the standardized testing we used to have to test kids on math and language is simply not there anymore. But I think if we go beyond that, one of the things that we are running into is that we are getting used to getting answers from AI. I'll give you my own personal example. So, and most of you probably are similar boat like I am. We don't write anymore. We don't write journal. We don't write emails. We don't write letters. There's almost no need to write anything. We mostly type or we record, we send voice messages. So there's really no reason for us to actually physically write. And the other day I was writing a letter and I really had a hard time. And I was like, oh my God, it's like, such a simple task has become so difficult. Why is that? Because we don't use that skill set. So one of the core problems with AI is that people are going to become so dependent on AI, and looks like students are already doing that, because they are getting the right answers from the AI. So you might say, oh, that's a good problem. Like, why study if we get the right answer, right? Who cares about everything else? So I want to talk about that, why that is a major problem. I'll give you some hints around that today, and we can dig deeper into it at that course where we talk about fundamentals and the world of AI, how they are clashing with each other, and what does that mean for future. I think it's going to be extremely useful for anybody who is genuinely interested in finance. You're going to get enormous value out of this. So what is AI doing right now is that a lot of people are using it to summarize a book, summarize a video. They're even summarizing the financial concepts. They might see an article, they might see something that they like, and then they use AI to just simply get a summary out of it. You can even use AI to analyze earnings reports. You can use it to compare companies. AI is so good now that you can even produce valuation models. And I'll tell you how did we get here just in a second, but that is available to you today. And this creates a problem. It creates a problem because, number one, what will happen is a lot of people who don't truly understand the financial world, like people don't really understand what is the, for example, taxation work, or how does the yield curve works, how does the operating leverage works, how does the discounted cash flow model work. They don't understand any of that stuff. But because they have summarized enough content, they're going to build a familiarity around that terminology. And when we become familiar with a particular subject, we think we understand it. If we don't understand the math behind it, we don't understand the logic behind it, we can't really even apply it in a practical life, but our brain will tell us that we understand. And when we think we understand and we don't truly understand it, this is where we get into a lot of trouble. Like, for example, we saw a recent case with situational awareness. All of you guys probably have seen it. By the way, he was not the only casualty of this problem. There were a lot of other people around it, including a lot of major banks. I'm not going to name them here today, but a lot of great people, a lot of great investors got burned. I mean, obviously, he got burned a lot. He lost almost all of the gains that he had made. So he's smart. He bet on AI. He understood the potential of AI, but yet because he did not understand the basic fundamentals of finance, he blew up $35 billion. So I don't want you to blow up $35 billion. So please do come to the course. I think you're going to get a lot of value around it. But my biggest concern is that AI is going to make it so easy for you to understand all this information that you're going to feel very, very comfortable with it. If we go back 2, 3 years ago and we look at AI was hallucinating quite a bit. It was mostly giving inaccurate answers. But if we use the same AI today, it is mostly accurate. It's giving way better answers and it's able to brainstorm with you, which is quite amazing. How did we get here? Well, all bunch of AI researchers, perhaps working for Anthropic, OpenAI, and other companies out there, they said, what is perhaps one of the most difficult subjects? And they arrive at an answer, probably mathematics. Mathematics have some complex problems. Many of those problems haven't even been solved today by some of the greatest mathematicians. So you guys are all familiar with a competition called Olympiad. Those of you guys who have kids in high school, in college, you're probably familiar with it. But it's basically Olympics for math whiz. All bunch of kids from around the world compete to solve math problems. So what AI researchers did was they hired people who were expert in Olympiad, and they say, hey, why don't you build us some crazy math problems, and we're going to see if AI can solve it. And they worked on it. They fine-tuned the model. They kept working on it until they got comfortable with it. And then they put the AI to an ultimate test. Now you think, for all this time, we thought, we can do better than other people because we are an expert. We can do better than other people because we study more, we have more information, we are able to make better judgment. And that was mostly true, but now comes AI. So AI researchers, what they did was they said, hey, what we're going to do is we are going to put Olympiad test into AI and to see what kind of results we get. Now, the basic concept behind AI is what? It's a language model, large language model, LLM, right? That's what it is. So, large simply means quantity. Model is just simply the way of doing something. So the key word here is language. It understands language. Anything that had ever been spoken in any other language, anything that has been written, any video that has been recorded, it takes all that information and trying to make sense out of it. That means it is really good at understanding the content. But the question remains is it also good at solving something that had never happened before? Can it solve problems that the humans have not yet seen? So one of the ways to test that logic is to give it a math question that had never been published before. That means, it's so unique that almost nobody can solve it. While Olympiad questions are structured that way, typically not one person can solve all of them. I think the final test have about 6 questions. So all those 6 questions were given to the AI, and AI was able to solve 4 of those 6 problems. Now remember, those 6 problems were never referenced before. There is no record of it. They were never published in any book, nowhere. Yet AI was able to solve 4 out of those 6 problems. That means that edge we had, that creativity that we had, the intelligence layer we had as human beings that made us better than everybody else simply no longer exists. AI can do that. That means anybody who understands how to use AI can now have that similar kind of intelligence. Once again, that's why it's so important for me to have a course and perhaps even built upon it. For example, I was at a Schwab's conference recently, and I met a couple of people. They were using AI in such an interesting examples. And I was so fascinated with it that I'm like, look, I want to bring you guys as a coach to my program. And then I go like, wait a minute, I need to really test this myself. So I'm hiring those people right now and let them teach me how they are using those AI in an interesting way. And if I like it, then I'm going to teach everybody else in the coaching program as well. So that is something new for 2027. So you can see that intelligence layer is now becoming a commodity. So how do we survive that? where do we go from here? So if I had, for example, if I work for a big bank or I work for an investment firm or something like that, mostly I'm going to have large analyst teams. I will have a lot of financial databases. I'll have a lot of payroll. I will have to spend a lot of time. But today you could be sitting at home just with a computer with Claude or ChatGPT or something like that. You can review financial statements, you can summarize earning calls, you can compare competition, you can identify risk, you can examine different industries, you can build a lot of scenarios, you can even study what management is saying. So AI is giving you a lot of competitive edge that was not available to you before. Access to information is going to be versatile. Everybody's going to have it. However, the question we have to ask ourselves, this information that is available to us at the fingerprint, can AI correctly interpret it? And more importantly, can we accept that answer? Can it really arrive at proper valuations? Can it really properly adjust the risk? Can it really can it stops humans from acting emotionally like we always do? Ultimately, can it make successful investment decisions? So in this course, I'm going to tackle those kind of things to try to see where that good balance is. At the end of the day, AI is a tool. The quality of output is going to depend upon what you ask. The question you're going to ask the AI is going to determine what answer you're going to get. For example, let's say you and me both want to invest in Amazon, and we both ask the same question: Is Amazon is a good investment? Most likely, we both going to get two different answers. And can you imagine if hundreds of people ask the same question, they're going to get a different answer. And then we're going to ask some follow-up questions. And depending upon the line of questioning that we take, most likely we're going to arrive at a different conclusion. So the information that we provide to the AI, assumptions that AI going to make or we are going to make, the sources we use, the context we use, all of that is going to make a lot of difference. Now, my problem is this. What's going to happen is a lot of people going to use AI, and they are, obviously in the beginning, it will be the smart people who understand AI, people who understand how to phrase things properly, people who are good investors. They've been doing it for a while, so they understand what to ask. And that is what's really happening in the investing world right now. And what's going to happen is people are going to tell that story to somebody else. They're going to say, hey, I use AI to do this. And then the people who don't understand, people who have not spent time, who have not built an emotional intelligence around investing, they are going to rely on those answers, and they are going to make the same mistakes like they have always done. So this is a very, very critical risk. Each investor is most likely going to ask a different question. They're going to use different assumptions, different time periods. They're going to define the risk differently, or they might not define it altogether. So AI does not eliminate human assumptions. In matter of fact, most likely the answer that you're getting from AI already has a human biases built into it. Another risk that I see with AI right now is the over reliance. Like I gave you an example of UC Berkeley, right? A lot of kids are starting to use technology to get to a right answer. But right answer can work for an exam, but it's very hard for it to work in the real life. For example, if I want to sit for a medical exam and I use AI to learn all kind of concepts that can make me very familiar with how to pick the right answer on the exam, do I really want to treat a patient with that kind of knowledge? Probably not, right? Similarly, a lot of, like, for example, the other day in the WhatsApp group, somebody mentioned, hey, you can use this software to build a trust or a will or some sort of other legal document. Yeah, you can do that. The question is, will it stand the scrutiny of law when something bad happens? Similarly, with taxes, you can probably get a right answer, but do you really understand? Did you explore other options? Can that transaction be done in a little bit more safer way? Have you considered all different options out there? Most likely not. But what will happen is that people are going to get one or two right answers. And when they get that right answer, their trust is going to increase. They are going to stop depending on professionals who spend years in that particular field. And they're going to just take that as an answer. And, when you do that, and you don't have a conviction around how did you get there, you have not really put in the effort. So when the market turns, when market corrects, when market condition changes, all of a sudden these people will be in the panic mode. They're really going to sell out. Another problem I see with AI is going to be conviction. For example, if I want to write something, it will be okay writing. I'm not the greatest writer in the world. But if I take that same concept and I put into an AI, which I often do, it writes it so beautifully. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not that much sure about what I'm saying as the AI is pretending it to be. So what I mean by that is it's when you're going to type in something into AI and it's going to throw an output out see, AI is designed to serve you. It's like a great librarian. You can ask him any question. It has access to all bunch of books, all bunch of information, and it can go get that for you. Okay. But it is not supposed to be your advisor. So what results from that is that you start to build false conviction around those answers. Why? Because they're written so confidently. They're written so nicely that you're going to fall for it. So I gave you all a bunch of problems with AI. These are just sample issues that I'm seeing in the market, but let's look at the positive side of it. Let's just say AI is so good that you don't really need to make investment decisions anymore. If that does happen, then we wouldn't need to be investing at all. There will be ETFs where, Claude ETF, GPT ETFs, or something like that. And these ETFs, we simply just invest in them. That will become the new average return, kind of like what we do with the S&P 500 and QQQ. So in the best case scenario, that's how we do it, and in the worst case scenario, we still need to continue doing the old way. We still have to rely on fundamentals. One thing I want you to walk out from this video today, especially if you have young kids, please understand that AI does not eliminate the need to understand the fundamentals. For example, accounting, algebra, statistic, probability, economics, different kind of business models, valuations, market cycles, competitive advantages, capital allocation, investor psychology, a difference between price and value. You, as a human being, still responsible for understanding all of this. Now, can you put this into a prompt and AI can kind of give you a summary of all that? Sure, it can do that, but it's going to rely on something in your history. Like more and more I'm using AI, I'm starting to realize that it kind of gives me the answer the way I like it, you know, which is problematic because because I like it, so I accept it as the right answer. But it is blindfolding me from looking at the alternative view. So, for example, in a coaching program, Anidya and I sometimes agree, but not always. And there's a reason for that because we do want to see it from a different lens. We want to see it from a different point of view. And oftentimes, even though if I'm investing in a company, I'll tell you why I shouldn't invest in this company. Ultimately, me as an investor need to ask, how does this company make money? I need to understand that, not just as an answer, but really understand how this company makes. Who are their customers? What kind of products they buy? What is this company's competitive advantage? How sustainable is the growth? For example, right now, memory, one of the biggest debate for 2026, 2027 is this revenue and margins sustainable for a few years? Now, good thing is SanDisk came out and they say, hey, we expect this to be sustainable at least till 2030. So that kind of gave a lot of people a peace of mind. But we need to be able to keep an eye out on this kind of stuff, right? What kind of debt the company is in, what can this company do that can permanently damage the business? For example, just today, Meta is in court in California, and depending upon what that verdict might look like, Meta could be under a serious threat right now. So that's why you're probably seeing that Meta stock is not really moving. Ultimately, it is my job to ask a question: what evidence will prove my investment thesis is wrong? So that is the most critical question you have to ask. I suggest that we use AI as a research assistant, as a brainstorming partner, reviewer, summarizer, analysis tool, something that can perhaps give us an opposing argument, something we can use to test our assumptions, maybe to fill in the gap for missing information. Biggest challenge we are going to face is when people are going to use AI as an unquestioned authority. Now, you might say, well, people are not doing that. Trust me, I'm in this industry. Almost every week, somebody sends me a question that has been written by AI. You can tell these days, right, what has been written by AI. And I read it and I'm like, and then I don't want to answer that particular email. So I'll write back and I'll say something like this: I think you want to ask me this question, which is like in 2 lines. And that AI prompt is like 1 page. So I have to spend 30, 40 minutes really understanding that question and trying to really get to what client is really want to know. Okay. I wouldn't be too surprised that by next year, we might have to implement an AI fees on consultation because we simply have to spend more time to figure out what clients really want to know. I would not use AI to become an independent judgment making system for me. I don't want to feel like AI can guarantee some sort of future success. I would not let AI make an automatic buy and sell decisions, although a lot of banks is going to argue against that. Like for example, with Robinhood, now you can use agentic AI to make trades, and that segment of their business is growing like crazy. For example, I was at a conference where CME Group was there, and they were saying, "Hey, look, you saw news, something bad is happening, maybe in Iran or something like that, but you can't trade your stocks. So what do? Well, guess what? You can trade a future with us 24 hours a day." Meaning, they want you to make an action every time you hear something in the news. So they want you to make those kind of decisions, and obviously, even reacting to those decisions after the news is published, most likely you have lost the edge. So people are going to use agentic AI and let the AI make those decisions. So that's another issue that we're going to see in the near future. I think I kind of give you a good idea as to what the fundamentals of investing looking like and what kind of risk and reward there is with AI. If you ask me, hey, what can I really learn from this course? Well, you're going to learn timeless principles of investing. More importantly, how AI is challenging those principles. You're going to get to learn about the difference between price and value. You will see how AI is changing markets and different kind of businesses, how research companies are using AI. So I'll show you some ways you can use those tools for yourself. I'll teach you how you can use AI to ask better questions, fill in some gaps in your thesis, find some missing information, help you compare different kind of competing investments. So, for example, Micron versus SanDisk versus SK Hynix, and how to build conviction into your investments without being overconfident, especially if you're using AI, and how to recognize when a new evidence invalidates the thesis that you're currently working on. I have seen that again and again. For example, one of the company that I'm invested in EOS, and EOS has done some things in the past that is just simply wrong. So, obviously my thesis in EOS is not there. Similarly, another company that I'm invested in Iron, I have significantly reduced my exposure in Iron because Iron management is doing something similar, like some things that I don't agree with them. Now, the stock might still do well, but my conviction level actually has now changed. And I'll talk about some of the common ways investors can make mistakes with AI. And even though this course is going to enlighten you, it's going to open up a lot of thoughts in your mind. Like maybe I'll encourage you to do more research around that, and we'll continue doing that on our WhatsApp group. But those of you guys who choose to go into a coaching program, then you can expect in 2027, we're going to be heavily focused on AI and how to use AI to build better investment thesis, how to understand the market, how to use it properly. So that's the main goal for 2027, because I certainly don't want to be left behind and be surprised. Obviously, all the big banks are already doing it. For example, I was seeing JP Morgan Chase is about to become a $1 trillion bank. And now the new thesis is emerging that it's not too far away that they may actually become a $2 trillion bank. Now, remember, the magic of compounding. Getting from 0 to 1 trillion is hard. Getting to 1 trillion to 2 trillion, not as hard. So it will be kind of interesting. I'll put my thesis on JP Morgan Chase very soon. But I'm talking about JP Morgan Chase, but you can look at all the financial systems. Morgan Stanley, Charles Schwab, you can look at Goldman Sachs, you can look at Citibank. Same story everywhere. But anyhow, that's a topic for another day. We have been talking about financial industry in the coaching program for the entire year. And I think we're going to see those benefits very, very soon. But thank you so much, guys. I hope this kind of gives you a great idea as to what this course looks like, fundamentals of investing in the world of AI. So don't miss it. It's absolutely free for those of you guys who are coming to the Wealth Summit. And I'll see you very, very soon.